how to schedule a live where I invite a guest in advance. And so we're doing it this way. Hopefully the people will join on as they see this live. But we have a very, very special guest today, and he's interviewed me a couple times, and I wanted to bring him on the channel to interview him. And so go ahead and introduce yourself, Charlie, and tell them a little bit about yourself.
My name's Charlie Sosnick. I'm a writer, and I met Hank because I wrote a story for GQ about the wild world of penis enlargement, and then I've also written another story about what I call nut maxing, which is sort of the come bigger loads community on Reddit. And so I've built a little bit of a small beat for myself on the wild west of men's health, let's call it.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing this?
I mean, writing in various forms for years, but honestly, the career as like a capital J journalist is more recent. Basically, the
Yeah.
story of how this all happened was have written, I read all kinds of stuff, and I work as a writer, but I wrote a short film about um, Jelqing, basically, and a comedy
Really?
short. Yeah, and because I had learned about it on my own, and I wanted to, it just thought it'd be a good premise for a movie. So I wrote about it, and then after I made that movie, someone who works at GQ, I was talking to me about it, and they didn't even know what jelqing or penis enlargement was. And so, in the process of me telling them about it, said, we want to write about this for GQ, and I did. And so, in a way, I owe a bit of a debt to the PE community because you guys being so open with me and allowing me to write such a good story has actually been huge for getting my foot in the door as a journalist,
That's
in the real
awesome, man.
sense.
Yeah. So, and I just asked you this when we were kind of doing some stuff behind the scenes, but how do you quantify, or what metric do you use to say like whether the article you wrote about like PE was successful or not?
They probably have numbers and stuff on their end. I don't really get to hear them. I honestly don't really want to hear them because I don't think it's a good idea to start trying to write for the result. Like the goal should always just be to write as a good and interesting and honest story. So I'm not super into the numbers. The way I like to think of it is you can tell from the chatter around it. Is this being posted on Reddit? Are people sharing this? Are the people who I know who read it calling me after and going, "That was a crazy story. Like, how'd you find these people?"
Yeah.
And they have more questions than get the article. That to me is how I know it's successful. Is that kind of real human reaction to it? And
Yeah.
there is a way to tell it from social media with numbers, like people reposting it and commenting on it on Reddit. I think is sort of the proxy for like a real life
Yeah.
sensation of like, check out this interesting article.
Yeah, yeah. All right. A little bit of housekeeping, guys. First of all, if you're in here, we got 51 people like that already. Hit the like button for me. It means a lot, helps the chat. I think it's in a different place when I do this format, guys. So I apologize for that, but find the like button and like it. For those that are just joining, and so we have Charlie here. He's one of the one of the excuse me, the writers, the journalists, and he writes for such magazines such as GQ. And he literally is the one who put together the GQ article piece that featured a lot of the guys that are actually in the chat right now. And so
I'm seeing a
I
lot
don't,
of familiar names in there.
yeah,
How are
again,
you
so yeah,
guys?
yeah. So Caleb is in there. I know Intimacy Nutrition Doc is in there. Uh, uh, I know my guy. I always forget what was the name that he used. Ian is in there as well. So yeah. So we got some guys. So kind of getting down into the nitty gritty. So Um, well, first of all, I want to know a little bit more about your jelking short video. Yeah,
Mhm.
tell me what was that about? What was the plot?
Basic. So, I write a lot of movies and make movies, and this one was my third short film. It was about a kind of odd dude who's got sort of some insecurity stuff, and he's jelking, and basically he breaks his penis uh, trying to send a nude, and then is attempting to use jelking to sort to fix it. Obviously, we know now that probably wouldn't be the best approach after suffering a penile fracture, but that's basically the plot.
That's
Is
correct.
He's trying to heal that, maybe get some length back. And that was sort of actually the beginning of my research long before I started talking to you guys and doctors about PE. Was I was talking to urologists for that movie, learning all the details. What are the devices he could be using? What if he actually has a penile fracture that look like? How much is that going to hurt? What are the mechanics of that? So I felt it was really important making that movie to get it right. And so when it came time to report the story, I actually had a little bit of background, or a lot of background already done on the nature of the story.
Yeah. So if I wanted to watch that movie, how would I go about seeing it?
It's not released yet. I guess stay
Okay.
tuned. Film festivals and stuff down the line.
Okay, that's well, that's exciting, man. And so, as we talked about prior to this, at any point you can say, I don't want to answer that question. I plead the fifth or anything like
Mhm.
that. So clearly, you had kind of stumbled across jelking. Is this something that you were considering for your own journey, or you just happened to come across it and you're like, oh, that's very interesting?
No, I don't need to plead the fifth. I've never tried it. I've honestly never seriously considered it. It's just not. I don't know why. It doesn't. It just. I've never really wanted to do it, but I find it very interesting. I think anything that a bunch of people are doing passionately. I think I'm a curious kind of person, and I like to know what's going on in the world. And if I hear that there's a group of people doing something interesting, I just want to learn all about it. And I go on the subreddits and go on the websites, and just I like to read and I like to learn stuff. And so that was really what brought me to it. It was not really an interest in trying it, but just in sort of a wanting to find out what's going on here.
Right. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying you already have a massive hog and there's absolutely no need for you to pursue this. Okay. I got you. I can read between the lines there, Charlie. No problem. So we got some guys in the questions, and that's a great question. And actually, my next question. So MK says, Charlie, do you believe that PE works?
It's a great question. Um, when you're writing an article like this, and in the reactions to the article, you can hear a sort of prior that some people come in with, which is this doesn't work, and they expect the article to be sort of a fact check that's going to sit like, oh, there's this fake thing people are doing that doesn't work. The medical takeaway, I'm not nowhere close to a doctor, but I'm not a doctor, and even I was an English major in college. I'm not the expert. My takeaway from the medicine seems to be that it's kind of a lack of data in terms of broad scientific data from that's pure, like, there's just a lack. There's not very many large studies. That said, anecdotally, talking to people, I have no reason to think it doesn't work, because everyone I've ever talked to who does it reports it works. And so my view on it is, if everyone I can speak to says it works, why would I not believe them? So that's my answer.
Okay. So ultimately, there's a paucity of data, as I like to say, in the most pretentious way
Yes.
possible. But you do believe that at the very least, there's something to it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is like the difference between quote unquote scientific data and anecdotal data. The scientific data, it's not that it does work or doesn't work. It's just that we can't say anything conclusive because there's not much. Versus the anecdotal data from real people I speak to is does work. It changed my life, and I have these techniques that I've been able to give to other people, and they can reproduce the same results that I saw, and so that says it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so when it comes to jelking, one of the frustrations that I have is like, in my opinion, and I'm actually recently releasing a video, maybe as even early as tomorrow, about an actual urologist that goes through why jelking is so bad and why
Mhm.
you should never jelk. But it seems like that is the most common and the most pervasive kind of natural enlargement technique. Um, in your research that you've done for this, is why do you think jelking is so popular? I guess.
I think jelking versus any other method, the popularity is. I think some of it's like branding. word jelqing is like really easy to Google. It like versus penis enlargement is just it's two words. It's gonna get all sorts of other search results. If you search jelqing, you're gonna find jelqing. I also it seems to me like some of the earliest sources on the internet talking about this stuff were using the word jelqing, maybe as a shorthand for PE at large. And so I think there's a longer history of jelqing on the internet,
Yeah.
which has made it sort of the dominant narrative in the space. And that was something that I, as a reporter, had to find out very quickly. Writing this story was I came in thinking jelqing. It was only after talking to you and other people that I realized jelqing is this small subset of this much larger space, and that even though it's very visible and it's a meme in and of itself, it's really far from the most popular technique among men and often frowned upon for various reasons.
Yeah. The thing about joking, and let's see, what's my guy in the comments? He said JR says it's popular because it's free and you can do it in secret. And I do think there's a lot to that. The techniques that are going to be most used are the techniques that are going to be free. And it's commonly manual stretches where you basically just use your hand as a physical extender and just like really pull and stretch. And then along with that, joking would be the other thing. But what I have seen, and even somebody in the comments says, I injured myself joking, is that it is one of the more dangerous techniques. Now, the question that I have is like, so there's a correlation between um, ice cream and drownings. And that's because people eat ice creams in the summertime and people are also swimming in the summertime. So there's a
Right.
correlation there. But what I get asked a lot because I'm a big proponent for just manual stretches rather than using an actual extender. But some people are like, oh, well, you get injured yourself a lot more. People injure themselves more doing manual stretches. And I don't know whether it's because the manual stretches are inherently more dangerous or it's just there's so many more people doing it than those people buying an actual device, that it's actually just a numbers game and it's actually the same proportion of people getting injured. I
Yeah.
don't I don't know if that's definitely the case when it comes to jelqing because it does seem to be at a much higher rate. I would probably say of the people that I coach for injuries, probably about a solid like 40% of them injure themselves just by actual jelqing. But it is just something that even that title was like, "Is joking the key to enlargement?" I was like, "Ah, man." Like, I get why you use that title.
I mean, that was that's part of the thing about being a writer is you don't really control the headline always, and so the
Yeah.
headline area where there's a lot of factors that go into that because that's what determines if people read the article, and I think even that point is jelking. It's a great word. It's got a J and a Q in it. It's got Scrabble. It's a Scrabble point word. It's
Right,
just
right.
like you see it. What is this? It sounds interesting. It sounds exotic and it can function as a shorthand for all of this. And if most, 99.9% of people have no the knowledge you guys have, they might not even know people. And joking because it has escape velocity all over the internet, it can work as this sort of funnel. And go, oh, this one little detail can get people in and actually read the details.
Yeah.
Or
So
learn, that's the tree. Let's show you the forest.
so how did that work? I mean, like, PE is such a enlargement, such a taboo topic. I mean, how does that go about, like how does that conversation go when you're talking to the GQ team and you're like, "Hey, I wanna talk about penis enlargement." Like,
They're down. I mean, at GQ, they try to meet men where they are, talk honestly about their bodies and grooming and health and all sorts of things that issues that affect men. And we all know, everyone in this chat knows that there are men everywhere who struggle with this stuff, research this stuff, experiment with this stuff. And so if men are doing it, why not write about it? And I think everyone at GQ is extremely, extremely cool. My editors there, Alyssa and Nick, extremely cool and just eager to learn about it. Very like curious and eager to learn is how I would describe everyone there.
yeah, well, good. What do you think made a bigger splash? The bigger loads article or the PE article?
Mm. I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe the bigger loads had slightly more reach, but
Yeah.
I think it may have had slightly more, but I would call them both a big success. I think some of the advantage of the bigger loads was, like we keep saying, there is some awareness of jelking as a concept. People have, if people spend enough time on the internet, they've probably heard of it. I think there were a lot of people who had no idea the come bigger loads community was out there.
Yeah, that's I would say that the bigger loads thing is even more of a niche topic. So now that you have done a lot of research and talked to the guy, you had mentioned that you were kind of writing a short story and the guy was like a weird guy. Now
Mhm.
I want you to be honest. I mean, because here I am, I'm sitting in the basement of my mom's house. You know, we're surrounded by shoes with a mask on. Like clearly, I've got some mental issues. But in general, do you feel like the guys in the community that you talked to, did it surprise you that they were like more normal dudes, or did you get the sense that they were more of kind of these like fringe, like weirder, odder dudes?
You know, everyone, first of all, everyone in the PE community could not be nicer to me. People are so friendly, open, willing to talk about something that's incredibly personal, and I'm endlessly appreciative of that. I think I may, if I'm being brutally honest with myself, I think I may have had, a bit of a prior judgment coming into it, but I also just think that, if you're making a movie, in my opinion, it's better to make a movie about a weird guy than a normal guy because we got to sit and watch him for a while. If he's just goes to work and comes home, it's not going to be very interesting. I think everyone, when they talk about something they're passionate about, they let their inner nerd show. And if that's weird or whatever, like, so be it. People, if you're really into tennis and I interview you about tennis,
Yeah,
you're going to talk for hours. You could go all the way into the weeds. And whether it's tennis or PE, people have their thing that they're passionate about, they know a lot about. And I like when people show it off. And so, yeah, I've found everyone in the community to be very, very friendly. And I think the other thing is a lot of guys struggle with this stuff. I think that as men, it's almost a cliche at this point, but women, it is much easier for them, I think, to talk about some of this stuff relating to their health and their sexuality. They have their own challenges, of course, but I think as men, we are just not used to talking about this stuff. And I like being able to give an opportunity to speak very freely about their health and sexuality and bodies. And
yeah,
if that's if that's weird for doing it, who cares?
yeah, yeah. That's a really good take. And that's part of why started this channel and started doing this in a more kind of mainstream sense, just because I felt this sense of very severe loneliness, and I thought that I was the only dude that was extremely insecure about the size of his meat, and even people that I now know were very insecure about theirs as well, like always put up this bravado that like, oh yeah, I'm massive, or even just jokes about having a big D. And so uh I think that more important than the actual like guys getting the actual size increases is actually guys knowing that, hey, a lot of people struggle with insecurity regarding the size of their meat, as well. um did did you get surprised by that at all? Just the number of guys that did have this kind of baseline insecurity getting into it?
I think I was a bit surprised at how many people experienced it to such a degree. I think I might have assumed that all 4 billion men on Earth have probably had some moment of insecurity. I was a bit surprised and a bit saddened to realize just how many people not only have this insecurity, it can be so severe that it really starts to affect other areas of their life, affect their self-esteem, their mental health in serious ways. And so that surprised me and made me sad, I would say as well.
Yeah.
It's not how common this stuff is, but how common it can be for this stuff to really get in the way of living a healthy, successful life.
Yeah. So here's kind of a hot button question that we come across as men, and I'm going to ask you just for your opinion. But do you think size matters when it comes to a relationship, and why or why not?
I mean, it's a question that came up in every interview. I would say it probably does. I think every relationship is a complete universe unto itself. Every relationship is probably completely different because you've got two people who are completely different, and so you multiply all those differences times each other. And so the question of does it matter in a relationship? Maybe. It's does it matter in yours? And I do think as an outsider coming to this community, one thing that I sometimes wonder is, the more we think about something, we keep thinking about it even more. And so if guys in the community spend a lot of time working on this and worrying about this, it could actually possibly, become more of
Yeah,
a thing in their mind rather than solving the concern. But my job is to be the reporter. My job is to hear where guys are at,
yeah.
not to tell them what to do or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant insight, man. And one of the things that I couldn't agree with that sentiment more. One of the biggest problems on these forums is it tends to be the guys that are already big. So I'm sure you're familiar with the term selection bias. And
Mhm.
so the guys that are already big that get bigger are the ones that are more likely to actually post like their actual results and kind of like the proof, if you will, or before and after pictures, or even just an after picture, or even just the guys that would be more likely to sit to be in a pump and be like, "Hey, is does this look right, or am I using this extender right?" And so one of the things that often comes up in our subreddits and whatnot is basically, why does it seem like everybody is 7 inches plus? And that's also what part of this channel is about, is to try to make sure that people know that one, that selection bias and what the actual averages are. I think a lot of this is driven by the adult film industry, and I
Of
think that
course.
is, yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, and how that might contribute to, different subreddits, like both of which that you reported on?
Well, the size question is one where like we have some pretty good numbers. I think like there have been some pretty significant studies that give us a sense of the statistics here, but I don't think human brains work that well with numbers. If you really feel a certain way, just hearing the numbers aren't going to change your mind. I think we tell ourselves stories that are hearing the facts sometimes. As far as the impact of pornography, that is something that I'm really starting to consider in a bigger way, just because every story I've written so far, it's a matter of time. It's in every interview until porn comes up. And it's almost like you have this arc of a person's life, and then the pornography appears, and then that's where the story begins. With particularly with the come bigger loads. With the penis
Yeah,
enlargement community, a lot of people, there were more cases where there was an individual experience or someone said something or whatever. In the come bigger loads world, it's almost entirely pornography.
yeah.
So I'm really beginning to think about like there's something happening in the world where this basically new medium has ended, and it is having serious effects on people, positive, negative, whatever. It's not my job to say, and I probably couldn't, but I'm interested in kind of trying to capture that a little bit more and keep finding communities like this one and just think things that are speaking to this big mega trend in our lives.
So have you thought about potentially doing a piece on more or less like the detrimental effects of the adult film industry? I know that's not like a novel idea.
I think it would be like I think that would be a book. You could write 50
Yeah,
books. There's a million.
right.
Approach feels like finding stuff like this, and if pornography keeps making its way in, then over time the work of writing these stories will capture it. But it seems to me like too massive of a thing to even begin to tackle on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there is some debate about, is there any kind of merit to the adult film industry? I mean, in your opinion, do you think it is a net neutral, net negative, net positive?
It's not my job to say. It's
Well, that's why I'm just asking your specific
uh,
opinion, not the people's opinion, just
uh,
in your
yeah.
life.
It I struggle to see how it can be good for you, good for people. Like it just doesn't. Yeah, there's no way it can be a net good on someone's life. There's no way you'd meet someone who had a great job, great family, always had a smile on their
Uh-huh.
face, everything great, and you go, "Oh, you don't watch any porn? You should."
Yeah,
You know?
right. Right. The oddly enough, the one thing that I have actually seen is, with the OnlyFans coming around, this is gonna sound crazy, and you guys let me know in the chat if this is just completely illogical. But so when you have the adult film industry, it's almost uniformly the biggest of the big dudes, okay? And it's a big production, it's entertainment, and they have a very standard formula, okay? But what I have seen is actually in doing some of this research that, and just for my own free time, that the more of these OnlyFans creators, because it's more like normal people, I have actually seen far more like slightly above average guys on like OnlyFans to even average guys compared to any kind of more mainstream adult film production. And so I actually have this like minor theory that it is that OnlyFans, well, I think it's horrible for society. I think more guys have the opportunity to see more average guys since anybody can do it, not just the biggest of the big. Does that make in
Mhm.
any way sense to you?
It does. I mean, it's a very interesting point. I'm gonna kind of in the weeds now, but there's a writer and media theorist I like named Douglas Rushkoff. And I heard him once talk about how when he first saw the internet, he found it very exciting because it took a something like culture used to be read only. Culture, a lot TV shows, movies would be created and you would read them. Now culture was read write. You could process information and write back onto the culture. And that was what the internet did in its earliest stages. In a way, OnlyFans is like the read write of pornography, where you
Yeah.
once had professional pornography studios and it was a read only industry. Now there's the opportunity for normal people to write pornography back into it. And there is definitely some interesting consequences of that, of to have quote unquote normal people participating in it. It might change. It might change it could change everything about it. The people we see in it, the style, the consumption, its effects on others. It's a major change, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's spot on. A lot of my channel is, I want it to be basically, um, more of just an at large men's channel on how to improve yourself. There are a lot of guys that kind of struggle to get motivated to basically be the best version of themselves, to excel in their career, etc. This is just generic advice here, but I mean, you have made it all the way to like writing for arguably, I would say, the most famous men's health magazine ever in existence. I mean, do you have any advice for the guys that, maybe are interested in journalism or are just interested in they're kind of stuck in a rut how to be successful in whatever they're doing?
Well, I mean, it's a big question. For writing, I'd just say you have to write because you just have to write all the time. So that you're not gonna be able to turn it on one day when someone asks you to for money if you're not doing it all the time for free. So just write every day about everything. And um, yeah, I guess that applies to life too. Just whatever your thing is, do it every day. Whether it's doesn't have to be I'm trying to learn in my own life, honestly, is like it's better to do something than nothing. I used to beat myself up. I'd set these big goals. I'm going to write 1,000 words every day. And then you don't. But instead of just, and then what if you said, I write every day, and then if I write 5 words, I still kept it going. And I don't know. That's what works for me. I don't know if I'm totally in
Yeah,
position to give advice on this. I'm still at the
yeah.
very age of a much longer career, but
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that that is that is great advice, man. And yeah, and once again, just seeing if you had a snippet, but I think that that is the most important thing that you could say is that you just got to start with something or do something. It's I'm big into fitness, and a lot of guys are like, I don't know how to start my fitness journey. It's like, well, you just start. You
mm,
do something, even if it's just walking for 2 minutes.
right.
Anyways. So, as a journalist, do you have any existential fear about AI?
Good question. Everyone asks it. I don't. I mean, I like writing. I'll do it. I do it for free all the time. If people want to pay me, that's lovely as well. And so I'm going to keep doing it. Did AI, like, I think this story, which people hopefully connected with, was about real people and real struggles. And the writing was just the decoration around it, around good conversations with very open people doing something very interesting that speaks to a broader human concern. Sure, AI maybe could have written the rest of the article once I had the quotes, but I don't think AI is going to interview people or go looking for interesting stories that speak to the human spirit, and that's the harder part.
Yeah. I even as I cosplay as a physician, as I like to say. But even actually in a lot of the fields in medicine, there was initially this like, oh my God, AI is going to come and take all of our jobs. And I do think there's a lot of jobs that are on the chopping block. But at least with the capabilities right now, what I'm seeing is that there it's more like a refined Google search. Like
Hmm.
it is not creating like original content. A lot of guys will go into like Chat GPT and they're like, Chat GPT make me an enlargement regimen or whatever. And literally what Chat GPT does is it just quickly searches through Reddit and then like regurgitates what it sees out there. And
Hmm.
so there's certainly certain aspects of it that I think could be helpful. But I mean, I would agree with you in the sense that I just don't think it can replace that human component to it that makes stories actually unique and stories pop, and even just that human interaction talking to people. So we'll
And what
see. I
makes
mean,
me tick is I'm like, even if it could, I don't care. Like I'll still go talk to people. I'm like,
yeah,
I feel like my grandpa sometimes. I just sit around and start talking to people. I don't know. Like I just, even if it could replace people, I
yeah,
like people. I like talking to them. I'm gonna keep talking to them. I'm gonna keep reading the interesting things people write. Even if AI could write it better, it's like I just like people. I like hearing what they do, seeing what they make.
yeah, yeah. Couple comments that I want to address real fast, and feel free to chime in if you feel like you got something to add here. But there is so the first thing is some guy said, honestly, here, Wellbutrin says, what OnlyFans makes me feel worse because I know they are normal, quote, normal people who are always somehow bigger than me. Let me be extremely clear, guys. The guys that are doing OF are going to be bigger than average for sure, okay? Because it's that selection bias. Once again, most guys that are average size are probably not going to be the ones that are going to be going on and showing their meat for the world to see. And so please don't misunderstand me when I'm saying that the OnlyFans guys are significantly bigger than others. And there are even some like OnlyFans creators that I have seen that I mean honestly look even bigger than the guys in the adult industry. And so, but I have also seen more normal size D's when like scrolling through Reddit or whatever. Okay, like people promoting their OFs on Reddit. Okay. Um, the other thing is Captain says, here's an interesting thing. Girls usually use bigger toys than average for filming or doing lives, at least on CB. I don't know what that is. So how do you view that? So that's categorically false. If you actually look at the research of the toys that are the number one preferred size for women, The actual insertable length is right at about 6 inches, and the actual dimension of the girth is right at about 4.5 to 4.8 inches when you're looking at the actual best selling toys. And so that is not true. Now, you might be more prone to look at, creators that do use more like I use extreme, but like bigger toys. And certainly there are some out there. But if you're actually talking about women at large, what size toys do they use? We actually have quantifiable data on what are the most commonly purchased toys. So I just want to, I don't want that kind of misinformation out there. And Charlie, you had mentioned earlier that like some guys, no matter what kind of data they're presented with, are not going to believe that the average is somewhere between like 5.2 to 5.8 inches. And
Right.
so I still do my best to try to to try to correct when I see these inaccuracies. Even more so than actually like, here guys, let me tell you how to make your pee bigger.
Someone's got it.
Um,
I mean, important. It's important to know the real facts. It's just a shame how hard it can be sometimes to change your mind with them.
yeah. So I want your opinion on this, Charlie, because we got a
I
comment
mean,
from J.R. Carroll, and he says, "Just look at the size. Look at the guy from House of Dragons who was average size and did that scene, and people call him small because most people who are willing to do those things are above average." So that brings up a great point. I don't know how in tune you are to things like Netflix or these HBO shows, but there is a prevalence of actually prosthetics being used in these shows.
mm,
Have you? Well, I guess have you ever considered the story of like um, how prosthetic use is contributing negatively contributing to men's self-esteem, but also
no, but
I
anyone in this chat right now has real experience with that. I would love to talk to you about that. That's very interesting.
yeah. So I actually talked my guy NMC Nutrition Doc, I know he's in the chat as well. He sent me a link to Doc, if you're in the chat, send the link to that Netflix series that you were talking about. But there have been like recently several like high profile, even that 28 years later movie. I don't know if you see that, but there are these like alpha zombies,
Yeah,
and they're just these
yeah.
gigantic jack dudes with like literally like 8-inch flaccid penises, like running
Mm,
around top speed, and you can see their meat just like flapping back and forth. And there's a show, Caleb says the show Sex Love. There's a guy who has about a 9-inch flaccid prosthetic on that. Um, I know my guy Doc 72 says Boogie Nights, but I can't tell you how many guys that I see. And in some ways it's almost more harmful than, in my opinion, than porn, because there's more just average viewers that are just like, oh, I'm gonna watch this show, and then they're like,
mm.
what the hell? That's a massive hog, and
Yeah.
not expecting it. So yeah, did you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, I've worked in movies before, I've made movies. The goal of movies isn't to, if it's not a documentary, the goal isn't to paint an accurate picture of reality. It's to be entertaining. And if anything, from the perspective of the creators of the movie, if you're sitting here talking about the prosthetic involved, you're also talking about the movie. And so they're attempting to create the most entertaining, provocative product. And so I don't know if the prosthetic size is a factor in that necessarily, but I would simply say that movies are not real life in the same way that Tom Cruise can't actually like hang off the back of an airplane while it's taking off. Movies are not designed to. Yeah, Caleb's exactly right. It's showbiz. It's not real,
Yeah.
and the
The
perception is unfortunate. I think that to me is the more interesting part: is how much these things can really affect individual men on a
yeah.
serious level.
So did you see 28 years later?
Yeah, I did with the crazy monster.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so like when you saw that scene, were you like, oh, that's definitely a prosthetic? Or
Phew.
did you just not think about that because you're a normal, well-balanced human male?
I don't know if I'm the most normal, well balanced male, but fixating on it. I think you guys might be. I think this is your domain more than mine, and so I think you guys might have
Yeah.
spent a little more time analyzing that one than me.
Well, I guess I was just watching it and I was just and now once again, I know for a fact, without a doubt, that I have slash had penile dysmorphia disorder, without a doubt. I mean, the amount of time I spent thinking about the size of my D and the effect that that had on my life at some point, without a doubt, clinical diagnosis. But that being said, if I was watching if I was watching that movie with my girl and there was no like warning and she would be seeing it, I guess what I'm trying to say in the shortest way possible is that most people who watch these movies don't have the wherewithal to be like, okay, that's definitely a prosthetic. And that's
Mhm.
why these scenes come up and there's always these articles and it's like, is it a prosthetic or not? And then all of the actors and actresses never say, um, like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, it was a" nah, the White Lotus dude admitted to using a prosthetic, and even that show that Doc 72 I mean, Intermittent Nutrition Doc was talking about, he actually came on record and said he used a prosthetic. But some of these shows don't, and so, I
Yeah.
guess that's just my concern is that if you weren't aware, and that coupled with the fact that if you interview a girl and then you're like, "What's the biggest size you've ever had?" And they've been like, "Oh, I had 12 inches," and you're like, "That doesn't actually exist."
Yeah.
It just continues to feed this false reality, I guess.
It reminds me, I'm 28 years old, and when I was in middle school-ish age, there was a very big thing, particularly like in school, around airbrushing of models and and female celebrities. There was a lot of cases where
Mhm.
women like tabloids were being digitally altered, or however they do it, to look skinnier than they actually were. And I remember there being a lot of talk in school about trying to create a healthy body image, this stuff not being real. Victoria's Secret models are very abnormal individuals that they're not who you should look at normal and compare yourself to, if these pictures you're seeing are even real. So I think there may be, to an earlier point of that, there's a bit more of a conversation around this stuff for women. For us men, you end up flying blind a little bit on some of this stuff. You don't necessarily have someone teaching you, or trying to make sure you know that what you see in the media isn't necessarily real, and you shouldn't compare yourself, and that your body versus some other person's body is far from the most important thing to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah, well said, man, and that's a perfect, it's not a metaphor, but a perfect illustration of that, but we don't have I mean, outside of doing what I do and maybe a few other guys, I don't know that we have a an outlet of guys saying like, "Yeah, hey, guys, porn is not real. These movies, they're prosthetics. Like the actual size average is about somewhere around 5.5 inches. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it seems like in some ways things are getting worse and not better for that for especially for men's self image with the use of steroids, uh, the adult film industry, those two things alone. So
Mhm. And I think this is where I felt that there was a story to be told. And I think that's where the public agrees, is not, there's an interesting shock value to PE, but the real story to me is why. And that's the most interesting part of every interview, is what started this? What made you want to improve this? What made you feel this so strong that you felt the need to devote time and money and effort to learning this? So it, that to me is the essence of all of it.
mhm. Yeah, and Intimacy Nutrition Doc says things are definitely getting worse on mainstream media. Bezos says the Barbie complex versus the Girth Master complex. And
Mm.
yeah, I will say the one encouraging thing to me, and I don't know if you saw this data as well, Charlie, that when it actually comes to pretty much every single different social media platform, the actual usage rates are starting to decrease for the first time in like
Yeah,
over a
it's
decade.
interesting.
Yeah. Have you had any do you have any insight with that?
I mean, not really. No, nothing personally that I don't know anything about how the social media companies work. I do think that
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like my age group, we were sort of like the true guinea pigs. I was in fifth grade when people started getting Facebook. I was in high school when people started getting Instagram. Like, we were the first generation that was sort of thrown into this brave new world of complete social media inundation. It almost feels like you've survived the storm, and now you're looking up after and you're going, that was kind of nuts. And maybe as people my age begin to have kids, they look back at that and go, I need to do something different. Or they look up and go, I've spent the last 15 years on this app, and what has gotten better for me. And so I think some of it might just simply be a matter of time. Like we've
Yeah.
had these things for long enough. People are they've learned what they are and they've kind of had their fun with them and maybe are starting as a culture at large to think past them.
Yeah. That is, I mean, and that's actually a large part of why it's what I've read that why people are actually tuning out is really just oversaturation, and then the more and more like AI generated crap actually on these social media platforms, and then people just realizing how toxic it can be for their
Yeah.
bodies, and so I think it's a combination of all those things. Um, I think that's about all the questions that I have. Guys in the chat, are there any questions that you guys want to ask? And I'm going to have the link to both articles in the description of this chat after we finish here. Um, so I'm guessing Doc 72 is asking this question. So why do men always have to be bigger, better? Where's the woman's side of the coin? What are your thoughts on that?
I think I disagree with the question. I think men have pressure and women have a ton of pressure. I don't want to say more or less or whatever, but I think I have to disagree with your premise that only men feel this pressure about their bodies. I think that is certainly something that women are feeling.
Yeah, and I actually, the more I think about it, the more I actually agree with that statement rather than my initial knee jerk was like when you think about society in general, I would say women have had to women are the ones that, you know, boobs have to be perky, they have to wear the makeup, have to have their hair done all the time. And I think that that is more of a pressure. But I do think specifically when it comes to the actual like sexual interactions, 99% of the encounter the male is responsible for. Like,
Mm.
and I do think that that burden is actually on the male, and I think that that might be why what he's alluding to with that is that, once again, if the girl's like, "Oh, he wasn't big enough," you know, it's always like, "Oh, well, the guy was too small," and not like, you know, not to be crude, but like, "Oh, no, the girl was too loose." And and nobody really takes that into account. So, and he said, yeah, that's what he's referring to. So, um, I don't know. It's a lot of these videos that I report on is report. Sorry, man. I don't mean to slander your
Oh,
your
good.
profession.
I'm not, you're not stealing that.
But a lot of the comments are on these videos when it's like, "Oh, guys, does size matter?" And the guys are basically uniformly in the comments like, "Yeah, well, tightness matters." And it's like, well, you know, even a 747 looks small flying into the Grand Canyon. So
I mean, and that is a whole world. I mean, there is a huge and growing industry of the female counterparts of penis enlargement, various surgeries and things that you can get on your vagina that are serious and
yeah,
expensive and potentially dangerous. Like the one of the things I've talked about a lot with my editors is the broader trend around this of optimization of thinking about your body as something that can be optimized towards certain goals, made to work better if you throw enough money and surgery and time at it. And I don't think that is a male only phenomenon. I think all
yeah,
humans.
yeah. I would agree. And I guess the one encouraging piece of this is especially maybe like 5, 6, 7 years ago with the Kardashians, there was this huge influx of like BBLs and like ridiculous breast implants and even lip fillers. And it seems like the pendulum has kind of swung back to more normalish looking appearance. And so I don't know that that'll ever happen with men's, especially when the like the pressure on the size of the penis. But you know, it is something to consider.
I mean, if you look at the ancient Romans, they would make fun of ancient Greeks and call them brutish and barbarians. And one of the things that was they would eat too much garlic and they had big penises.
All
So
right.
there's nothing, eh, nothing
Yeah. So Intimacy Nutrition Doc says men have to keep it up, have to get it up, keep it up, and keep going long enough to help the women get over the top. Like this isn't going to be pilled, but I do feel that is a large portion of the pressure that is put on men.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I agree with you, man. Um, but Charlie, we've been talking for almost an hour, man. Anything else
Been a
you want to
treat.
close with,
Uh,
man?
no, I would just say thank you to everyone in this community who I've spoken to. You guys have been so very cool with me and open and taught me a lot and been very patient even when I didn't know what I was talking about, asking ABC level questions about this stuff. And thank you guys for taking the time to talk with me. And if there are more stories in this space, things that you guys know about that the general public does not, that speak to the issues we've been talking about, please talk to you about them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. And Caleb, thank you for the super chat, bro. He says one day I will be on the cover of GQ magazine. I believe you, Caleb. I believe you, man. You've already been featured in an article, so why not a cover? Yeah, well, awesome. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for taking this Saturday afternoon to spend time with
My
this
pleasure.
fringe group of weirdos. But we really appreciate you, and I just wanted to thank you again personally for casting us in a fairly normal light in the article. I think it would have been really easy to be like, "Oh man, these weirdos in their mom's basements pulling their D," but you were like, "Nah, these are just normal dudes that are dealing with insecurities and choose a pretty unique outlet for that." And so I really, really appreciate that, man, because there are a lot of articles that go right into try to like bashing us and making us look as weird as possible.
No, I don't think you guys are so weird. I think, yeah, it's my pleasure to report it honestly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Charlie, you know how to find me if you need me. Guys, thank you for support. If you don't mind, hit a like before you leave. And leave some love for Charlie in the comments and by hitting the like button for to thank him for his time being here. And with that, guys, remember there's nothing wrong with self-improvement, but you are enough just as you are. All right, guys. Peace and love. Let's see if I can end this.
Bye, everybody.